Hello and welcome. Welcome to my heart. I am Victoria Pendragon. I have so many stories. I'm going to limit myself to this specific one today about sleep magic. What you are looking at here, this is a body of information. I was going to be naked for this, but I thought it might startle some people. Every one of you here is a body of information. And sleep magic, which is what my book is about, is designed to assist you to develop a relationship with your body of information that can let you have a more comfortable life. So, how did this all start? Well, I have a fairly unpleasant background. My childhood was riddled with abuse. Oh, I almost died when I was 6 months old, too. I had a fatal incurable disease at 6 months old, tuberculosis, which in my day was not curable. And I was a guinea pig for that and got through that one. But you know how life is. Once was not enough, and I guess I wasn't conscious enough at 6 months of age to make the most of it. So at 44 years of age, I was gifted with a process by my body in the universe called progressive diffuse systemic sclerosis. It's also known as scleroderma. Scleroderma is a collagen vascular disease that affects the immune system of the body. In effect, it tricks the immune system of the body into thinking that your body, is an open wound. And in so many ways, my body was an open wound. I was an open wound at 44 years old. I had lived the life that one might expect of a person who had been massively abused as a child. It had not been an easy life. I lost both of my children in my first divorce to their father in the split up. So the only love I had known in my life, my children, was taken away from me. I remarried at 40 to another man and determined to change my ways. To put it lightly, my issue had been promiscuity. I decided that that would no longer be an issue in my life. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I started to dress like a hobo. Because for all of my life, I had been what I like to refer to as Betty Boop on speed. My typical outfit to go grocery shopping, and God bless my children for having this mother, because they had me until they were, 10 and 12. I would wear those, what do they call them, Daisy Dukes, the cut-off shorts that go like halfway up your backside, high-heeled shoes, and ankle socks with a tube top. That was a typical outfit for me back in the day. So you can usually tell looking at a person like that when you see them on the street that this is an injured person. Your average, comfortable, relaxed, happy person doesn't dress like they want to attract attention. Your average person doesn't go to a concert with their husband and have someone walk up to the husband while you're in the ladies' room and say, "How much do you pay for that?" That doesn't happen. So I was injured, seriously injured. I decided to change my ways in order to keep the second marriage. I wanted something to hold on to. I began to dress really awfully, and the poor man, well, that wasn't what he married, and he was mystified. So life was challenging and troublesome, but he loved me, and he hung in there. And then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seemed, I was having some gastric difficulties. I went to a nutritionist. She sent me off to get some medication, all herbal, because I was trying to avoid medical stuff. I grew up the daughter of 2 doctors. And they taught me, they were pathologists. They knew what happened when things go wrong. They taught me to avoid doctors, if at all possible. So I did. And I went the herbal route, not thinking, not knowing now what I know with sleep magic. I would have known how to handle this, but I didn't know about that then. I took the medication, and she had told me, you will have a healing response. Well, I didn't know what a healing response was in those days. She told me. She said, it's called Herkimer's response. You're apt to feel like you have the flu. You'll get sick, you'll get stuffy, you'll be tired, you may get a fever. Okay, fine, I've had the flu. I went home, and she told me this would happen in a day or two. In 12 hours, I started having symptoms. And I thought, well, okay, happening quicker than she said. Inside of the next 24 hours, I had begun passing out. My fingers were turning blue. I was having a lot of pain. It was all very strange. I called her on the phone. She didn't know what to tell me. She recommended me to a naturopath to go get things looked at. I got to the naturopath. He told me I was in anaphylactic shock, but that nothing that she had given me would have put me in anaphylactic shock. Okay. He gave me a nice treatment that made me feel better, marginally. By this time, I was shivering all the time and couldn't expose my eyes to sunlight. I had to wear sunglasses all the time. Light hurt. I never got better. I never got better. 6 months went by, and I was just enduring the pain. I was enduring every day. I had gone from a vibrant, filled with energy person to someone who could barely move, and when I did move, it hurt. I went to, of course, again, parents are doctors. Parents say, you might want to consider seeing a doctor. I figure if my parents are telling me to see a doctor, I probably better see a doctor. I went off to a doctor, and the doctor told me that I was getting old. I was 44. My mother is 25 years older, and my mother was still in the water slide at the amusement park. I said to the doctor, I'm sorry, my model of old doesn't look like this. My model of old doesn't feel like this. I left. I was angry. I called my mother on the phone. I went to the doctor. I'm angry. I'm not going back. Okay. We settled that. I decided to do a few things on my own to try. I read that perhaps I could go on a fast, cut everything out of my diet, and then start putting one thing back at a time. Well, clever person that I am, I decided to do the fast the week we were moving from one house to another, packing and carrying and moving. That didn't go well. By the time one of my sisters, another doctor, came over at the end of the move, and she said to me, your breath is ketotic. And I said, thank you, what does that mean? She said, oh, that's what we call it when people are dying. That's the breath. I said, oh, okay. And my mother called, having heard that, and said, of course you're dying, eat something. So I want to follow this plan because I want to get better. So I started eating one food at a time. And I discovered through that what I could eat. And it turned out that if I would avoid animal protein, for the most part, and gluten, I could be okay. When and not to say that I felt well, but I didn't swell up. And I wasn't in quite as much pain. So I was doing that, holding that. Finally, my mother said, you really need to go back to a doctor. You're not getting better. So I went to another doctor who turned out, as things would have it, to have been a student of hers when she taught at medical school. And as often happens, he took particularly good care of me. And he recommended some tests. We took them, did all this stuff. By this time, my hands had begun to, here are my hands. This is what they look like. This is me reaching out. This is me squeezing my hands together. Not much range of motion, but it's all that's left of the disease. Ask me if I care. So my hands had begun to curl. They weren't like this yet, but they were curling, and I couldn't make them go back. And the doctor said, well, every day I want you to go to the wall and just lean and stretch. No, okay, fine. The test came back. He called me in. Progressive systemic sclerosis, probably in your case diffuse, it seems to be moving very fast, it's incurable. What? I was going to be in a massive amount of pain and crippled for the rest of my life, however long that would turn out to be. Well, like any good daughter of doctors, I went home and I looked up scleroderma, which was the common name for it, in a medical encyclopedia. And there was a list of symptoms in there that made the list of symptoms I had look like nothing. Your hair can fall out, you can lose weight, you can, what, fabulous. I was devastated. Incurable just didn't sit right with me. Now, the thing I didn't mention yet, but we'll mention now, is that for the first 4 years of my marriage, for reasons I cannot explain, but assume is my body's wisdom, I began to consume every piece of information I could find about the mind-body connection. I didn't know why I was doing it. I wasn't sick. Nobody I knew was sick, but I was compelled. And I filed it. I filed it. I filed it. I filed it. Well, when I got sick, of course, I forgot about it. I forgot I had filed all that information. I was so angry, I forgot I'd even read the information. I know many people get scared when they get sick. I got angry. I got angry because I had had this hideous childhood. And every morning of my life, from the time I was this big, I got up and looked out a window and saw the sun come up, and I thanked heaven for another day. And I would think, maybe this day is the day. Maybe things will get better. And so when I got this disease identified and I got this projection put on me, probably 6 months to live, I was pissed. And it took me a while to get over that. Once I was like, okay, I really can't be angry with this. This is it. This is what I got on my plate. This is what I'm going to have to live with. I pulled out the materials because I remembered I had them. I started reading through everything, and everything resonated. It seemed I remembered it all. I started experimenting. I started doing some visualization techniques. Just completely random stuff. And I told a few people about the condition. I didn't want to tell too many people because I knew what happens. When you tell people you are sick, they come back and go, how are you feeling? I feel great, except I hurt all over. I feel like I'm on fire, but I feel, I'm in good shape. So I didn't want to tell too many people. I didn't want the feedback. And I am an artist. When my hands were sore and crippled, because by this time they were in hooks. They were just like this, and they didn't move at all. This, I can tell you, is improvement. They get better all the time. So I was still painting, and I had to wrap my brushes with foam so that I could hold them. Because by this point, too, I couldn't stand to have anything touch me. It hurt just to do this on the skin. Clothes hurt. Everything hurt. So I began a campaign, and I started doing this thing, that thing. People would say, oh, have you tried this thing? Have you tried that thing? Because when it's incurable, whatever. I'd try anything. So what felt good, I did. What didn't feel good, I didn't do. I trusted my intuition. I trusted my body. Now, while this is happening, a fascinating thing is going on. I can't sleep because I hurt so much. I did have some fascinating experiences while trying to go to sleep that were sort of out of body, but I couldn't sleep. In the 2 or 3 hours of sleep that I did get, though, something was happening. I wasn't sure what was happening, but I had these dreams that were delicious. It was like I'd gone to heaven. Now, for all I know, my body was just glad to be asleep. But I would wake up in the morning, and much as I used to greet the sun every day, and I was still doing that. I got over myself. I would wake up feeling like, wow, there's something good. There's something good for me. I can feel it. And I could feel it, darn it. I couldn't feel it in my body, but I could feel it in me. And what I came to realize was that what the doctors were seeing and what I was feeling in my body was old. That was something that happened. Me, that was me inside me. That was now. That happiness that I felt when I was asleep, when I woke up, that was my reality. So, well, for instance, when I try to walk up steps, I have to go, 1, 2, 1, 2, because my feet were as flat as pancakes. I had no bending. And it hurt. So there's I think it's a Neil Sedaka song, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, about hurting and loving. It hurts to be in love or something. And I began to sing that to myself as it hurts to heal. It hurts to heal. And I began to embrace pain as my healing. I came to learn later, when I actually started to do energy work after I got better, that in fact, when the body is letting go of energy, there is often pain as it moves through the stuck places. And I decided to view what the doctors saw as me dying, as me getting worse, as me healing. That was going to be my mindset. And my body was helping out because I was going to sleep and it was making me feel really good. It didn't happen every night, but it happened a lot. And in point of fact, miracles sort of happened. I mean, just amazing people began to appear in my life. Amazing healers helped me. Told me that I had a gift, that I was supposed to help people. And I was a little dubious about that, but I was thrilled at all this help. One of the things that happened to me was I discovered a Buddhist technique that's been around for hundreds of years. I had no idea the Buddhists had come up with it. I didn't know anything about Buddhists. I thought, I am so onto something. I discovered that if I paid strict attention to whatever I was trying to do, trying being the operative word, because my hands were just a mess. I dropped more things than I picked up. I would brush my hair, and my brush would just go flying across the room. And I learned how to laugh at that stuff. And I learned how not to drop heavy cans on my feet at the grocery store. So I was developing this whole way of being, and I discovered that if I really paid attention, for one, I wouldn't drop so many things. For another thing, it actually seemed to distract me from the pain that was going on. Well, good. But the other thing that must have been happening in retrospect was that my body, when I was sleeping, now had seemed to have some additional space. Because I was starting to get some dreams that were really rather specific about the healing. I didn't ask for them. They were just coming up. One very interesting one, I was entering a hospital with my father. We were going to see people who had scleroderma and who were hooked up to these machines. And the machines had these big, strange, they looked like those goatskin wine bags that were hooked up to them. And the doctors were putting the women into these bags and hooking them up to a machine. Meant nothing to me, but it seemed very positive. About, less than a week later, I got my Smithsonian magazine. There was an article in it by Candace Pert, or about Candace Pert, who, Dr. Candace Pert who's written a book called The Molecules of Emotion, which played a part in my later development of sleep magic. In this article, there was an accompanying photograph of a macrophage. A macrophage turns out to be part of the immune system that helps the body to heal. So I had had a dream in which I was in a hospital and they were putting people in a part of the immune system. Interesting. So my active meditation, as I called it, was clearing my mind and also clearing a space for things to happen. I decided that I would join a support group for people in chronic pain because I thought I had something to offer them, which was this active meditation idea. I went to the first meeting and met a gentleman, a doctor, who was on the board, who came up to me afterward and addressed me and said, by the way, I have a patient who has scleroderma. He is part of an experimental program at the University of Pennsylvania. I'll bet you could get in. I'd be happy to write you a letter of recommendation. I thought, well, that sounds interesting. The dream, the hospital, the machines, the doctor now coming, okay. I did it. I said, yes, I'd like to try that. And so he wrote me a letter. I got an interview. The study was filled. They had no more room for people. But people were dying because it's a fatal disease. And people were dying. It was a study. They didn't know. So he said, you hang in there. We want to stay in touch. I ended up on the study. And there's another interesting little puzzle piece here. The study had two things that you could do. One, you took this experimental medication called depenicillamine, or two, you got hooked up to this machine with a bag that hung on the side of it that was not shaped like a wine bag, but was part of the treatment. So the doctor, my original doctor who had diagnosed the disease, had asked me to go on the depenicillamine. I refused. I looked at the, what do they call that? Side effects. The paper that folds out and is a mile long. I read everything because I already had a lot going on. And I saw the side effects and I said to the doctor, thank you. I'm already dying. I don't need 3 other ways to do this. So I declined it. Turned out they wouldn't have accepted me into the study if I had taken the drug previously. They needed virgins. First time in my life anybody called me a virgin. So awesome, I was in. And I said, well, if they give me the drug, I'll just drop out of the study. They've got people dropping out all the time. Nope, I got the machine with the bag hanging on the side. And they told me what it was. Oh, they gave me tests, of course. You have to have all kinds of baseline tests. The baseline test for scleroderma, the main one, is something they call the pinch test. That means they take their skin, they do this, they pinch you, and they pull out skin. Well, see, I have skin to pull out. Isn't that awesome? I'm wrinkling too, I love it. And they pulled out my skin. Well, this is what they got. Nothing. This is what pulling my skin was like then. I was as slick and as shiny and as hard as a tabletop. I was, the doctor said, hidebound over 98% of my body. The pinch test hurt like you can't even begin to imagine because they really tried to get the skin. So I could only imagine what this test was going to be like when they told me that the needle they would put in had a point on it about the size of a ballpoint pen. Excuse me? The first day of my first treatment, which was hysterical to begin with, it's in an experimental area of the hospital where mostly college students would come and they would do things to them and pay them money and they would go away. And then there's a bunch of people who are dying doing more serious work. And they walked me into a big room, big empty room. I was the only person in there and they're telling me all these things that are scaring me half to death. And all of a sudden, some men start walking in. Some guy comes in, he sits down on a bed, guy sits down on another bed. I think this is odd. They don't usually mix genders in the hospital. The next thing I know, all the nurses are talking to each other. Turns out they made a mistake. They booked me into a room with a bunch of guys. What a surprise. And they sent all the guys home. I had this gigantic room all to myself, which I needed because guess how many nurses it took to get ballpoint pen-sized needles through the wood that I had become. I think we had 10 people in the room at one point. It was hurting them more than it was hurting me. It was devastating to them. The looks on their faces, I can still recall. But ultimately, they got these darn things in. And so for the next 4 hours, they then tried to extract my thickened blood because it was thick too, it turns out. My blood, they're like squeezing out of my body into this machine. They expose that to ultraviolet light for an hour and a half, and then they put it back. They did centrifusion. They separated the red blood cells from the white. The red they gave me back right away. The white cooked in a little bag with ultraviolet light. Think violet flame, I did. And so I would get this hot plasma back after an hour and a half. That felt amazing. And then they would bandage my arm up, and they did this one day. Then there was day 2. I got to do this 2 days in a row. It hurt so much that when I got home, I was not sure I could continue. I was already in so much pain that I had considered suicide seriously. I actually made lists of, I could do this, no, can't do that, that's going to screw me up more, no, that might screw me up more. I was so afraid I was going to get worse messed up from suicide, that was the only reason I hadn't done it. So I thought, I don't know if I can do this. Well, within 2 weeks, right where the needles went in, on both arms, because they had to use them both, the skin felt normal. Normal. Not better, soft and silky. Well, I thought, that's where the needles go in. I'm not going to have a hard time. I'm back. I'm going for a second treatment. I went, and by the time I got back, those normal spots had moved. Even more of my skin was soft. When I went for my pinch test, the doctor said, "We have never seen anything like this. No one has made progress like this, period, let alone in a month." Because the treatments were a month apart. I was jazzed. I went back in. Now, to get me into the hospital took 2 people because I couldn't carry anything. I was a mess. I looked like this. And my face was pulled tight like a bug. I looked like an alien. And I couldn't do much. So my second trip, I had more help carrying. My third trip into the hospital, I carried in a backpack, luggage. I was rocking. And so this was fabulous. Eventually, long story short, in less than a year, they declared no sign of the disease present in my body. None. Now, parts of me were still quite hard. Still like a tree. But the skin was soft, and I knew the organs would get better. My lungs had been diagnosed as 25% compromised already. My stomach was compromised, my kidneys, various internal organs. But they were all functioning. My lungs were perfect. Excellent. So, here's all this business. Now, all my healers, all my wonderful women, I called them, they wanted me to go and help people. And I was like, you know what? I have been working really hard for the last 3 years. I think I would like to just hang out. And so I hung out for a while until, and this part isn't in the sleep magic book, but until the beings of light showed up in my room. I was doing my yoga, which I could, when I had scleroderma, my yoga consisted of me closing my eyes and thinking about yoga. So I was back doing my yoga again, and a being of light appeared in my room. I mean, it took up the whole space. It took up more than the room. And I was like, okay, giant thing in the room. I just was like, okay, and I kind of just backed away. I stopped doing the yoga. I went downstairs. I said to my second husband, I said, a big light just came into the room upstairs. And he said, well, you better get back up. Now, this is a perfectly ordinary man. He was a writer, an editor. He was but he was very much open. So I went back up. And I said, okay, big light, still there. What? And it said, and I'm not sure I have the words right, I am an embodiment of the light. That part I have right. Now it is your turn to help people with what you know. Okay. Light goes away. And I began to be recognized. I heard the light being. I didn't know what exactly to do about it, because all these people that were healers already. I didn't know how to begin. So I was talking to people about this, that, and the other thing. But people started recognizing me and coming up to me. I have a headache. You can fix that, you know. How do you know that? It was like I had a sign on me. So I ended up doing 15 years of hands-on healing. During this time, I encountered a lot of very ill people that I could help in the way that people had helped me. I could help release their pain a little bit. But what was frustrating me was I had had a miraculous experience. I wanted all those people to have miraculous experiences. And so I was frustrated, especially frustrated when I would see people and I would say to them, you know, you really need to make some changes in your life if you want to get rid of this. You know, you're carrying around all this weight. You need to ask for help. You need to get your husband to do the dishes once in a while, for Pete's sake. You need something. And people wouldn't change. I was beside myself. One day, I had a client. Her name was Victoria. Victoria had had a childhood of massive abuse. Victoria was visiting me for the, fifth or sixth time. And I appreciated Victoria a lot, you can imagine. It was like having a mirror present. But Victoria wasn't changing. She wasn't making any changes in her life at all. When she left, I threw my hands up to the universe and I said, please, send me someone who can tell me what I don't know that I know. Because I knew that I knew how to get better. I got better. But it was unconscious. Within 2 weeks, I found myself sitting next to a man at I was going to a lecture that was being given by some friends of mine, some therapists, and I had begun to embrace the gifts of my childhood through my healing work. As a child, when you are being abused, you can get out of your body, which I did. You can also learn how to work the body, which I did. I learned how to make my energy work for me. Better yet, I learned how to feel the energy of the people that were with me and know how their energy worked. So that was helping me at this point in time, because that's what I was using on my healing people. I could feel their energy. I had learned how to do that as a child. So I had all this. So I'm sitting next to this guy at this lecture, and I am getting nothing off of this guy. No vibe, no energy. He was like a zero, a void. And I left and I said to my husband, that guy was amazing. He must have pulled his aura into his belly button, that you could feel nothing from this man. 2 weeks later, another friend of mine, another healer, said, I'm going to listen to this guy talk. He was at that session we were at a couple of weeks ago. And he gave me his name. Louis Caracciolo was his name. And I said, oh, I was sitting next to him. It was the zero. And the zero was presenting. I went. And he was talking about this and that. He had been trained in neurolinguistics programming, but had had an amazing life with some amazing people. I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of Terence McKenna. If you have, you know what kind of life he had been living. But he was now running a vineyard and practicing something he called word salad on people through hypnotherapy. He was quite an amazing gentleman. And he presented his whole audience with this little gift. He said, when you go home tonight, I want you to just tell your body about something that you'd like to know more about. Now, people, everybody here, I'm sure, has heard the idea about taking something into sleep, about inventors that come out of sleep with great ideas. And what he was doing essentially was saying, program your body, and your body will give you something back. Well, because I am straight out of my mind, I went home and said to my body, okay, I'm going to give you permission tonight to do whatever you need to do, to open up these hands. Okay, I had a perfectly normal night's sleep, But the next day at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was breaking out in boils on both arms, in more pain. It was the scleroderma pain. I recognized it. It was revisiting. It was leaving, yes, but I still have some scars from those boils that came on me. And after 2 or 3 days, this arm had grown 2 inches. And I thought, I believe I'm onto something. And what I realized I was onto was what had been going on at an unconscious level for me. When I had cleared my mind, doing the act of meditation, I created a space that allowed my body to go to work for me. My body was working for me inside me. So what I began to do, having realized what an idiot I was for like maybe the 10th time in my life, I decided I would go into my body and say, okay, let's approach this somewhat differently. And began to ask it to open me up, slowly, gently, easily, effortlessly, to what it knew about how I had done what I had done. And it did. And I began taking vigorous notes in the morning. Stuff just started coming through. I began writing. I began to have a formula. And a gentle, easy one that would work. I began to contact all my healing clients saying, guess what I've got? I've got the key to what helped me get better. And I began working with my clients one-on-one with what I called sleep work. I now call it sleep magic because it is, and because a couple of my people said, I have enough work to do. This just sounds like more work. I said, oh, okay, well, we'll change the name. And so I did. Now, the key to this is, I got up here and said, I am a body of information. I am a body of information. Now, this is factual scientific stuff. I've 2 parental doctors. My life was filled with science and medicine. My left brain, right brain balance is real good. I've researched all the brain stuff behind how this might work, why it might work. When we are in utero, we begin receiving information from our mothers in utero about life. Again, back to Candace Pert and the molecules of emotion. She talks about the chemistry that happens. When you feel something strongly, your body chemistry changes. When you are a mother and you feel something strongly, that body chemistry that changes affects your placenta, affects the child growing within you. So you begin being, in a sense, programmed chemically when you're in utero. Now, once you're out in the world, you're exposed to all of these people around you, all of whom are giving you feeling information. The body's language is feeling. It's feeling. That's why I now consider the body to be the best link to spirit that there is. Because it has no mind. Trust me, your mind, which is a wonderful thing, can be your worst enemy. I'm sure you all know this. It can just get in your way. But the body is it's an animal thing. It's an animal body. It's pure. And the information that it takes in at a massive rate, because the neurons in your brain, the connections between the neurons in your brain multiply at a rate from the time you're 1 till the time you're 4 years old, well, from birth till you're 4, at a rate they never achieve again, ever. It slacks off a little between 4 and 7, but it's still greater than it will ever be again in your life. You accumulate all of your programming for life, all of your emotional, feeling programming for life is set by the time you are 7 years old. And you don't get the ability to reason, to filter anything out, to make sense of anything until you're much older than that. So this is pure information that you're carrying around. What does this mean? This means, because this is in the cells of your body, every cell of your body has all this information. And it's what makes your life what it is. So when you want to alter your vibration to attract to you a life that's good, so much of this stuff that's out about vibration and the law of attraction talks about changing your mind. Oh, you can change your mind all you want. You know what makes your mind? Your brain. Your brain is programmed. If you don't change your cellular programming, you're not changing your vibration. You may change it to some degree, but it won't be profound. It won't go deep. It won't change it where it needs to change, and you'll get these little hiccups in your life. You'll be doing affirmations. Oh, everything's changing. What the heck was that? That wasn't pleasant. Your life can be heaven on earth if you can allow your body to release the emotional feeling programming that it's been carrying for all. You can do that. This is what sleep magic does. Now, I don't know if anybody's... Have I got time? What time is it? 10 minutes? Oh, I have to ask people... I have 10 minutes to go. Okay. Would anybody here like me to program your body for tonight to open up more to the consciousness of the wisdom of your body? Okay, so for those of you who don't want it, you're just hearing words. For those of you who do want it, close your eyes. Just get a little bit relaxed. Take a few deep breaths in and out. Those of you who don't want it, you might as well breathe anyway. Take a few deep breaths. Relax. And know that as you hear my words now, tonight, your body will remember them for you. You need remember nothing more. You'll be set. And now I'm going to speak directly to the cells of your body as it's lying in bed tonight, or sitting up in a chair, however you sleep. Dear body, I love you so much. I am so grateful for everything that you do for me in the course of a day, for all the processing that you do. I want to be able to communicate with you on the deepest level possible. I want to open to your intelligence, to your wisdom. So tonight, to the degree that you're comfortable, to the degree that you're able and feel good about it, I give you permission to let go of whatever might allow us to expand that to an appropriate degree. Thank you so much for helping me do this. Good night. And now you may open your eyes in this space. Come back to reality. You can rub your feet on the floor, rub your hands together a little bit if you like. You're back. Those of you who just heard it because you wanted to check it out and didn't want to do it, at any point in time, you can tell your body that you would like to do that little thing that Victoria did at the talk, and it will do it for you, even though you didn't do it now. Because your body remembers everything it has ever seen, heard, smelled, felt, tasted. Everything. This is a body of information. This is 65 plus years of more information. You couldn't get this information into a hard drive. And every one of you here is the same. Is the same. So you have things, your body knows things that you have no clue about. You know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know. So sleep magic can help you to release things you may not even know you're holding on to. I cannot even begin to tell you the difference in my life as it is today to what it was even 10 years ago. It is dramatically different. dramatically different. Some people think that life is, well, it's filled with automatic and unpleasant things. The checkout clerk gives you the brush off, and you can't get attention when you need it, and somebody bumps into your car. It doesn't have to be filled with those things, because you really do attract from your vibrational level into your life. When you change your vibrational level at the cellular level, it goes off. Questions? Go ahead. Yes, yes, I do know, because many of my what I call my spoon-fed people ask me that question, because there are a lot of people who are just too busy to do this themselves. But I figured everybody needed it, so I wrote the book. But if you do take any kind of medication to sleep, it has no effect at all. You can program yourself at any time during the day, and it will your body simply will go to work. Your body doesn't become ignorant of itself just because you go to sleep. And however you get to sleep, that's your business. It's fine. Now, maybe later, in the book, by the way, in the Sleep Magic book, there's a whole list of what we call foundational questions, things you may not have thought of, to prepare the groundwork for later questions. Because most people, if they jump into something like this, their ego goes right into, okay, well, I need a bigger house, I need a bigger car, and things like that. So I want you to let go of whatever it is you need to let go of so that I can start making more money. That's not exactly where you want to start with this. You want to start with what the body knows that you don't know, because that's going to make the rest of it go much more easily. So in the book, there are lists of foundational questions that will start you to a place, and then at some point you might say to the body, okay, tonight, body, I'd like to know, how do you feel about that medication I've been taking to sleep? And it's all about feelings. In the book, I talk very much about putting your mind out of the way, about putting the ego process out of the way, and just opening to feelings, because feelings are what it's all about. It is literally the language of your body. When your body coughs up a feeling, sometimes you can't even identify it. We have more feelings than Eskimos have names for snow. You don't know. But there's information in there, and the body knows. So you don't have to know even what it is that your body knows to let go of it. The body will let go for you. If somebody handed you a rock that was on fire, burning hot, would you need to know what kind of rock that was before you dropped it? I don't think so. I think you would just go, ugh. So, same thing with the body. The body will happily let go of this stuff it doesn't want. We have another question here.
10 years ago, I was paralyzed with my 4 limbs. I couldn't eat, I couldn't write, I couldn't do anything in my life. And then I was meditating 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and I was meditating for Mother Teresa. And I would like to ask you, when you did this healing process with yourself, did you had somebody in your mind, in your guide, to meditate for?
No. No, it was just me and my body.
Just generally, you meditated?
I did what I called the active meditation, which was that I paid attention. I have a very busy mind. I have a really big ego. It just goes. So I harnessed it by paying attention to things, to little things. I mean, to washing dishes. I would go, oh, there goes the water. Oh, there go the bubbles. There goes the soap. Anything to keep my mind busy. I have a busy mind. Many people do. Active meditation works well for them. So no, I had no quiet meditation. Thank you.
I was in therapy years ago by a psychoanalytically trained therapist, and he would say to me, you seek the mother you know. And that meant that you continue to look for that feeling inside that you had in the womb and growing up with your mother, as you receive from her experiences that of life that you experienced, so that if your mother, let's say, had a lot of trauma and pain, during that time of your gestation and birth, that you would then seek that feeling as a home to you. That would be your sense of home. So whenever you want to be home or want to be the familiar, that's where you would go, and you would seek out a partner that would also give you that kind of a feeling or awareness that would be like, hey, I'm home now, and you'd be attracted to that person.
I agree completely. And that's the essence of what they call the vibrational attraction. It is, you draw to you from what is within you, from what you know, from what's informed you. Do we have time for more questions? Okay.
So the information that you receive, do you find that that comes to you in the morning, or does it come to you as a feeling, or does it come, how does the information that the body gives you come to you? How does that come to you?
The body doesn't so much give you information, really. It gives you feelings. So if, let's say you went to sleep and you asked your, well, for instance, yesterday I sat in that incredible chair in the other room, and I had some incredible experiences because I'm very sensitive to energy. And so rather than perhaps say, oh, prepare me for my talk tomorrow, last night I went in and I said, okay, whatever happened in that chair, you know, I'd like you to just let that process through to the degree that it's comfortable for you. And we talked about some things about resistance and whatnot. And when I awoke in the morning, I could actually feel that the body had indeed resisted some of what was happening while I was in the chair, and that it was able to let go of some of that resistance. That's all the information I need. We're not looking, in doing sleep magic, you're not looking for information per se. You're not looking to wake up with an answer to a question. You're looking to allow the body to shift your vibration so that you can move into things. Now, that said, stuff happens when you do this. You will, for instance, maybe do something, and during the course of the day, you'll have a memory about something that happened 20, 30 years ago that you hadn't thought about before. And then your mind goes to work. Then you say, okay, I asked to let go of this, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this memory. What's that all about? Now, it's not up to your mind to answer it. I would counsel, take the memory into sleep magic the next night and say to the body, I know you know why that memory came up. I'm going to give you permission to make the most of it. Let it go. Let me know more about it, whatever, and let that go. So this doesn't satisfy the ego, this work. It was never meant to satisfy the ego. It's meant to change your life. And a lot of that has to do with accepting the intelligence that is in your body, which can become wisdom as it's imbued with your feelings.